Hi guys, so the International Trade Secretary Liz Truss was speaking at a policy exchange conference on Tuesday where she was talking about international trade and the trade deals that she's planning to sign in the future. Now, she took a question about her government's decision to postpone checks on goods moving from the EU into the UK from October this year to January next year in some cases, and from January next year to July 2022 in other cases. Her reason for why the government is postponing these checks is either a lie or it's absolutely bizarre. Let me apologize in advance for the audio levels. These differences are from the original video, not my doing.
Afternoon, Secretary of State Adam Payne from Politics Home. Firstly, following up from James's question earlier, are you confident that you'll sign a deal with the US before the next general election? And secondly, on the decision announced earlier to delay checks on EU imports again, are you at all frustrated that this aspect of post-Brexit life is continually being kicked down the road? Do you kind of wish we'd just get on with it?
So, I cannot make promises about when I'm going to sign a trade deal with any country, because essentially I give up negotiating leverage with that country.
What leverage? The leverage that you gave. What leverage did you have when you went into the trade deal negotiations with Japan or with Australia? You completely folded in those two cases. What leverage are you talking about?
Country. So I'm not going to make any predictions. All I will say is it makes huge economic sense for the UK and the US to have a closer trading relationship. There are areas like digital and data where there are huge opportunities for us to work more closely together. I know the US are looking at digital agreements, and we're in active discussions with them. But I'm not going to prejudge or give a deadline for the concluding point in any negotiations. On the subject of import controls, we are still in a global pandemic. Supply chains have been hugely disrupted. Container shipping costs have been rising. Air freight is very, very difficult. It's absolutely right to suspend those additional checks whilst we are dealing with a serious issue, which, by the way, isn't just the UK, it's an issue across Europe, it's an issue in North America, but we need to be as...
So she's blaming the pandemic here. So the reason why the UK government is not imposing checks on goods coming in from the EU until January and July next year is because of the pandemic. But then if it was the pandemic, why would you set a date like January and July? Wouldn't you leave it completely open? But the other problem with this argument is that the European Union have been imposing checks since the beginning of the year. But Europe has been experiencing a pandemic as well. Is Liz Truss incompetent? Does she not know what the hell is going on? Or is she lying?
Flexible as possible, because what's important is being able to import the goods and services that we need. And I talked earlier in my speech about the...
So what's important is importation, not control. But wasn't the whole crux of the entire argument that you people, well, not Liz Truss, because she was supporting, she wanted the UK to remain in the European Union, but on the Brexiteer side, you know, she later jumped on board the Brexiteer bus, but the whole Brexiteer position was we need to take back control of our borders. We need to take back control of our trade. We need to take back control of our laws. We need to take back control of everything. Now you're saying importing goods without checks is more important than any type of control. You know, it's so important that we control things, we're going to postpone it for another year almost.
The vital importance for people on low incomes of imports, particularly clothing and food, and it's very important.
So it's the humanitarian answer here. We need to allow goods to flow in from the European Union because we don't want poor people to suffer the consequences of what? Of Brexit? So we need goods to flow in now because it's, you know, if we impose checks, it's going to become expensive, but you've postponed the checks. So are the checks good or are the checks bad? Because you can't say the checks are necessary your argument here, Liz Truss's argument here is, we don't want to impose checks because this is going to drive up the price of goods and it's going to harm the poor and the working class. But instead of eliminating the checks, you're postponing the checks. So in 2021, it's not okay to throw the poor and the working class under a bus. But in 2022, yeah, that's perfectly fine. These are the people who are in charge. The idea that the pandemic is to blame for everything, it seems. And the fact that a political party that won an election back in 2019 and won a referendum to a certain extent as well, on the whole idea of we need to take back control. And their argument today is we need to take back control, yes, but not this year, next year. Makes absolutely no sense to me. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?